Okay, boys, we have to talk about this. I love what the Los Angeles Clippers are doing right now. I was really high on them last year going into the playoffs. I thought they would beat the Nuggets. They ended up losing in 7. I really think they had a good chance at beating the Thunder. Maybe you disagree with that, but they just made a trade that maybe seems kind of random to a lot of people, and people really don't care about it. But I care about it a lot because I think this Clippers team is really good now and how they can be even better moving forward. We'll get into that in a sec. But let's go over the trade real quick. So if you heard, there was a 3-team trade between the Heat, Clippers, and Jazz. The Heat got Norman Powell from the Clippers. Clippers got John Collins from the Jazz. And the Jazz got Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a 2027 second-round pick from the Clippers. So for me, I'm going to get into the Clippers and why I think they're really good now and how they can solidify one of themselves as one of the best teams in the West, along with the Nuggets and Rockets and Thunder. But let's get into what I think about the Heat doing this, what I think about the Jazz doing this. For the Heat, it's very interesting. I think the Heat are in a weird situation where they still have Tyler Hero, they still have Bam Adebayo, they have Andrew Wiggins, and now they have Norman Powell. So they're going to be good enough. They'll probably make the playoffs next year. But I don't know what that direction of that team is going. Even if they do make the playoffs in a very wide open East, I don't think they're beating the Magic in a 7-game series, nor do I think they're beating the Knicks in a 7-game series, along with the possibly healthy 76ers. So I don't know what's going on in Miami. It looks like they're in limbo kind of right now. Not good enough to win a championship, not bad enough to tank for lottery picks. So I don't know what the Heat are doing, but they get Norman Powell, a good player who had a really good season last year, who I don't think will be as missed by the Clippers as a lot of people would think. But before we get into that and the whole Clippers situation and their team going forward, let's talk about the Jazz real quick. They got Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a second-round pick for John Collins. And I just don't know what the Jazz are doing. They could have traded John Collins a season or two ago when they had the chance. They could have traded Markkanen when they had the chance, but now they signed him and extended him, and last year kind of hurt his stock. Same thing with Jordan Clarkson, same thing with Colin Sexton. They just really messed up what they had going on there. Danny Ainge could have traded those guys away at peak value and started the rebuild sooner, but instead they're trading their guys away for literally nothing. Like literally trading away John Collins, who's a stretch 4 who can shoot from 3, good defender, good athlete. You traded him away for Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a second-round pick. I don't know. The Jazz, I think, as much as Danny Ainge gets credit for being a genius, they really messed up the value of their assets. And I just think this further proved it. They should have traded guys like John Collins, Clarkson, Sexton, back when their trade value was peak value. But let's get into this Clippers team. So they get essentially John Collins for Norman Powell. I know they gave up a second-round pick, but who cares about that? For me, I love this for the Clippers, and I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, the Clippers, Norman Powell was really good with them last year, almost an all-star, and they're going to really miss him. Maybe Norman Powell had a better season than Johnny Collins last year, maybe, but it's not that simple. I think the Clippers needed John Collins a lot last year, especially during the playoffs, a big stretch 4 who can shoot from 3. I feel like they really needed that in that series against the Nuggets. As you would see, Aaron Gordon were out physical them a lot, and you didn't want Kawhi necessarily guarding him because he's like your best defender and save him for the offensive end. You get that in John Collins now. And not to mention, Norman Powell, if you watch that series against the Nuggets, really disappeared in that series. I think he had 1 or 2 good games. He came up big for them in Game 4, which they ended up losing with the Aaron Gordon buzzer beater dunk. But Norman Powell was not good in the playoffs. And was it just because he's not a good playoff performer? Was it just he's inconsistent? I don't know. But I feel like they could use John Collins more than Norman Powell. They already have scorers in Harden and Leonard. They already have 3-and-D guys like Bogdanovich, Jones Jr. So I think they'll be just fine. The interesting thing is, if you look at this Clippers depth chart now, I would assume their starting lineup would be something along the lines of Harden and Chris Dunn as your 1 and 2, Leonard, Collins your 3 and 4, and then Zubac your 5. They also signed Brook Lopez this offseason to a 2-year deal, I believe. He'll be the backup 5, which is another thing the Clippers really needed, and they kind of used Ben Simmons in that role last year. Didn't really get much playoff time. He's someone who can stretch the floor. It's not the best defender anymore because he's getting older, but it's still a solid defender. Can get rebounds. That's another huge thing the Clippers needed. What makes it interesting is, yes, they got Collins, yes, they got Lopez. That alone makes me put them right below teams like Nuggets, Rockets, Thunder. I think in the West there's a lot of good teams. There's clearly the best teams, which is the Thunder, Rockets, and Nuggets. And then there's teams below that like the Timberwolves, Lakers, Clippers, Warriors, stuff like that. I think the Clippers can get into that elite top spot in the West, along with the Rockets, along with the Thunder, along with the Nuggets, if they do what a lot of people think is going to happen, is that Bradley Beal is considering a buyout with the Suns, and that if he were to do that, he would be interested in going to the Clippers. They seem to be the favorite. Teams also like the Warriors and Bucks were included, but even the Lakers, but I don't think he wants to go to any of those teams. I think he wants to go to the Clippers. All signs point to that. If the Clippers get Bradley Beal, and I know people are going to say, oh, well, Bradley Beal's washed, he's not that good anymore. He's literally what Norman Powell was last year, with the upside of possibly being better because he's older, and at his peak, he was much better than Norman Powell. So if they get Bradley Beal, and there's rumors that they're looking for a veteran point guard in someone like Malcolm Brogdon or Chris Paul, it reunites him with the Clippers, which would be awesome. You could look at a team with a starting lineup of James Harden, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, John Collins, Zubac, and your bench, Brook Lopez at the 5, Nicholas Batum at the 4, Derrick Jones Jr. at your 3, Bogdan Bogdanovich at your 2, and then someone like Chris Paul or Malcolm Brogdon at your 1. That is leaps and bounds better than the team that they had last year. You're basically getting Bradley Beal, replacing him. You're replacing Norman Powell with Bradley Beal, which again is about the same player, I think, at this point in their careers. You're getting Kawhi Leonard back to his normal spot at the 3. Derrick Jones Jr. is pushed to the bench, who was a starter for them last year. Brook Lopez, you finally get a backup 5. Bogdan Bogdanovich, you have him for the whole year instead of last year where they just got him at the deadline. And then you get a solid backup point guard. And we saw that a lot in that Nuggets series where when James Harden was not on the floor, guys like Chris Dunn, guys like Bogdanovich, Leonard, they can't facilitate the offense as well as Harden does. If you get someone like Chris Paul or Malcolm Brogdon, a veteran who knows how to run an offense, they're going to be so much better next year. And I know people are going to say, oh, Clippers always do this, blah, blah, blah. I seriously think they were really close to being the Nuggets last year. If they did, I wouldn't surprise me if they had beaten the Thunder. And I know people are going to say I'm crazy, but guess what? They took the Nuggets to 7 games. The Nuggets took the Thunder to 7 games. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So, to me, I love what the Clippers are doing. Much more than the other LA team, for sure. I don't think the Lakers are all that good still. And if the Clippers get Bradley Beal, if they get someone like Chris Paul, Malcolm Brogdon, that is it. They're going to be really good. And I would put them in that elite teams in the West, consisting of the Rockets, Nuggets, and Thunder right now. I think Thunder because clearly they're the defending champs. They're all young. They're going to get better. Until proven otherwise, they get that top spot. Rockets because they were the 2 seed last year, because they added Kevin Durant, that makes them really good, I think. And then the Nuggets, who just completely crushed the offseason. Who now has a bench. They got Bruce Brown back. They got Tim Hardaway Jr. They got Cam Johnson. They got Valanciunas. The West is going to be hard, but the Clippers just made a move where they could be really, really good and compete in the West. Let me know what you think about these takes down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you guys.